back to Wealthy Wednesdays. My name is Monica Matthews. I am the owner of Queen Care Products.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here again. My name is Tajiana Ellis, and I am the Chief Program Officer for the Life Enrichment Group.
We're so happy to be here and we're so happy you all are joining us. And listen, all about Queen Care. You might ask, like, what is Queen Care really about? And it's all in our tagline. Our tagline is to indulge, engage, and uplift. We want people to indulge in self-care practices that really support optimal health. We have all the natural body care products to help you do that. We want people to engage in our community, engage with one another. We are better together, and that's a fact. And we want to uplift those who are most vulnerable amongst us, which is why we do a lot of work through our nonprofit, our sister nonprofit, Life Enrichment Group and Queen Care. We are all about the community, okay? So we're here today with Wealthy Wednesday, though. And Wealthy Wednesday is really an online health initiative that's really focused on us learning and relearning how to properly care for yourselves. And we really envision this time together really consisting of sharing information that's really going to feed our mind, body, and soul and really cultivate, our lives to really exude wealth, right? So I know we've all heard the saying, health is wealth. It really is. And that includes not just our physical health, not just our spiritual health, but our mental health. And that's what this series has been all about. And, we're investing this time in ourselves, just taking a moment out of our week to really just say yes to ourselves, yes to spending time, making ourselves better, and yes to self-care practices that really do support our health. So, yeah. Hey, y'all. Welcome back.
Welcome back. And you know what? I'm so glad that you all said yes to tuning in tonight, whether you are live or will watch later. There are so many ways to stay connected with us. This show is just one of them, but other ways you can stay connected with us is to make sure you like, comment, and share this video. Follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, don't forget to visit www.queencareproducts.com. Now, Monica, what I can't believe is that it's been 5 episodes so far. Can you believe that we're almost done with season 4?
Wow.
Like, what is even happening? And I think what's even crazier is the fact that these topics have been so good, you all. Like, I really want you, if you have the time, you can go see the past episodes. It's on the Facebook, it's on the YouTube. But so far, what we have been able to cover in season 4 are care points and lessons learned. We've talked about depression and anxiety. We've talked about grief and loss, relationships, good and bad habits, and it just keeps on going.
It keeps on going, man. Wealthy Wednesday is the gift that keeps giving because listen, today we are going to have a dialogue with the region's top therapists to talk about how we create our value systems, okay, and how they really affect our mental health. And just a short disclaimer, like, we're aware that what we may view as values is subjective, right? Meaning that what we value might not be what you value, and vice versa. I mean, what I value may be different from what Taji values, and it's okay. We welcome dialogue about what values you believe are important to have. And I'm so really glad that we've been gaining the tools really to process through emotions and feelings, okay, during this series, because, right, that's what mental health is all about. What we're thinking, how we're feeling, and how to process through. So this season really has been really special and really empowering. But first, before we get into our topic today on values, what we got, Taji?
But first, y'all know how it is. Every single episode, we have our question of the day. Today is no different. So y'all know what to do when we ask our question of the day. Go ahead and put your responses in the comments so we can have this dialogue. Today's question of the day is, what are your top 3 values? Monica, what are your 3 top values?
Okay, so my top 3 values are, loyalty. That's number one. I value real, true, genuine love. And last, I really value support, like my support system. That's a big value for me. What about you? What are your 3?
I love that. I would definitely say I really value faith. I value faith. I value kind of similar to you, loyalty, honesty. Like that's very important to me. I consider myself an honest, loyal person, so that's important to me for others to do the same. And another value I would say is family, like family community. I think that's another important thing as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am so interested in this topic on, values, and I'm excited to bring back our resident therapist,
Yes.
Dr. Jen. Okay, she has been joining us all season, helping us unpack all my stuff for sure, but helping us unpack some of these pandemic residuals. I mean, the reason really why we wanted this season to focus on mental health was really to unpack some of those pandemic residuals that we still haven't dealt with yet, okay? Because we all know that those 2 to 3 years were really jam-packed with some heavy stuff. Some of us, a lot of us, the majority of us went through a whole lot during that time. And, now we're back outside and all of that. Have any of us really processed some of these things? And so that was the whole premise of focusing on mental health this series. And so let's welcome back Dr. Genesee Temple. She's been with us this whole series, and we are so fortunate to have her.
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome,
Hey. Thank y'all for having me back again. I'm glad I haven't got the boot yet.
Oh, no.
We're locked in.
You're locked in. We're giving you 2 boots. You got the left and the right. So we walking together. So Dr. Jen, listen, we're talking about values today. Let's just hop right in. I would really love for you to expound on these questions that I'm about to throw your way, okay? Number one, how are value systems established?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think for me, I would first my definition of values and kind of how I see it is that values are the things that anchor us to living and guide us through our lifetime. So I want to share my definition before, I start running my mouth so folks kind of know how I'm centering that for me. But when we talk about value systems, we definitely create our values through, or we learn our values through socialization. So we think about it. I always tell people your first teachers are the people who you grow up around. That could be your parents or caregivers, guardians, siblings, cousins, community. And so we're really learning, especially, as our brain develops, etc. Just what are other people doing? How are they living? How are they showing up? What is important to the people around us? And to some extent that we take in a lot of that. And some of those things definitely become important to us as well. My hope is that, at some point in life, it then becomes more intrinsic, right? So the more experiences you have, that you start to, put things down that don't serve you, that don't genuinely feel like it should be a part of your value system. And you start to integrate other things into your value system that makes sense for, who you are, where you are in life, what matters, what makes sense to you. So I'll say early socialization, but hopefully throughout our lifetime, it becomes just more genuine and authentic to our individual selves. And it doesn't mean that the values that are learned earlier in life are negative or, trash toss them. I always say use that information to inform your next steps. So yeah, and really wanted to emphasize that value systems can change. I think sometimes people think values have to be this thing that we carry for the lifetime. I always think you could value 100 things, right? But that doesn't mean all 100 things are right here in the forefront. I might have 5 that are right here. I have some in the back seat, some in the trunk, and some in storage. And maybe I'll tap into those later. So wanting to also name like value systems flex and change throughout our lifetime. So long-winded answer, but I wanted to share that piece.
No, I like that. And that's real. And it makes me think of this saying, and I'm going to try to wrap this all together, like what I'm thinking in my head, but like, you can't choose the family that you were born into, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like you can't choose the values that you were taught when you were born and how you came up, how you were raised a certain way. And so I think it's interesting, we all have a different frame of reference when it comes to our value systems. All of us were not taught the same values. Like I might value something different from you, from Taji, whatever. But what happens when we start to integrate with each other and our values aren't meshing, I feel like is really interesting. And I think it was also really interesting what you said is that they change. It's not a set thing. Like really, as you grow up or, grow into life or mature or whatever, that might prompt you to change. But what happens when it doesn't, Dr. Jen? What happens when you're not prompted to change your value system?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. I think I was talking through this the other day. I think there are organic ways in which we start to shift our value system. So that comes through like thoughtful self-reflection. You start to think about what do you aspire, to do and show up, how you want to be, what gets you excited. And I think sometimes we brush up against that values, even if we're not trying to. Things might come up that frustrate us, challenge us, bring up some icky feelings in us. And I think at many points in our lives, we're on that road. Either it was like intentional reflection of our values or unintentional. I think people get stuck with not being able to commit to that exploration, right? Self-reflection is hard. And self-reflection is intertwined with self-awareness too. So sometimes it's not that people don't want to shift their values or they can't. It's just that they're not aware that it might be time to pivot. I don't know if either of you have ever felt this yourself or heard someone say, like, I just keep doing the same things and it's not getting me anywhere. And I keep trying and keep trying. It's like, well, maybe something has shifted. Maybe you need to take that step back and start to reflect, but not only reflect, start to make a plan, right? With anything, having a plan, it may not work out perfectly, but it gives us a blueprint. And sometimes that can be really hard for people. Some of us need community or support or guidance to do that work of planning. Like, what does this new value look like? Or how does this same value look like, but differently? So one of the things I was sitting with is like, one of my values is social responsibility. So for 9.5 years, I was practicing therapy. That was how I, engaged in social responsibility, helping people, caring for the community, teaching people how to take care of themselves. But as you both know, I've switched careers to doing equity, diversity, and inclusion work. That's still social responsibility. But now how I do that value is on a systemic level versus the individual level. So all that can get complicated. And if we're not self-aware, we may not be able to shift and pivot in ways that help us grow.
That's deep. Well, we could have a whole session on self-awareness.
Literally.
Because I feel like that's the key, because that whole thing, when you pointing the finger for coming back at you and all of that, like as a society, we've so got into blaming others for whatever we might be going through. And it might be true. Someone else may have a role in it. But where do we draw the line of self-awareness and say, like, you know what, this might be something going on with me, like,
exactly.
And so I just want to plug therapy, like, period. Especially in the Black community, we have this stigma around it, and we need to get over that, because like you said, sometimes you need help to process through, help to figure out, well, shoot, I've been stuck in this, on this hamster wheel, but somebody else can tell you, well, this is why. It's easy for somebody else to see inside of your situation, than you seeing inside your situation. But really training ourselves to be self-aware, like, oh, Monica, you're doing it again. Like,
Yes.
you're hopping out of the pot into the frying pan, self-awareness like that. So I really wanted to just do a quick plug for therapy right there because, yeah, that's what this is all about. So, but now I want to ask you, like, what role really does our mental health play? Like, what role does our mental health play in what we value? And like, how can a lack of certain values affect your affect your mental health in a negative way?
Yeah. So I'm thinking about like mental health, if I think about it just broadly, I think when we're in a stable, healthy place mentally, it gives us more flexibility to really just think, right? Think about ourselves, think about what we want. There's very few blockages right now. You could be on cruise control and that's okay. I want to normalize that too. I don't want folks to feel like, oh, I'm in a healthy space. I need to figure it's like, no. So I think when you are in that healthy space, though, you're able to really lean into the work of questioning, self-reflection, introspecting, getting feedback. You're more open to that. You're more receptive. You are able to maybe take a seat or lean back, sit back as things are happening and do more perspective taking. Okay, well, I showed up in this way, but this is how the result went. Maybe how was I acting or enacting or not enacting a value? What was going on? So you're able to process. I think when you are experiencing a lack of certain values, I think about it in terms of what you start to feel. And so when I've done work with clients, people will talk about feeling really frustrated with life, feeling really stagnated. So not really making any meaningful movement in any one direction. Some people have, shared feeling a lack of meaning or purpose. And like I was saying, in my definition of values, it really anchors us to our daily living, right? When we know what we value, that helps us, navigate each day. I know that I like to spend money. So if I like to spend money, I probably need to value earning money somehow, some way. And so I go to work. So we have to think about it like that. And I think when we're in a negative or just really, mental health funks, it's hard. That's a blockage. We might engage in self-doubt, self-criticism. We are less creative when we're suffering mentally. And I think figuring out our values is a very creative process because not only are you figuring out what you value, you're figuring out what you're doing to move you closer to those values. You need to think about what's keeping you from those values, and you need to think about ways to engage with those values in ways that make sense. So when you're not in a good place, I don't think you're able to effectively, not saying that you can't at all, but I don't think it's as effective as when you're in a more stable, mental place.
I hear, the underlying theme, like, and I've been getting this from each and every session that we've been having, really is about taking the time for yourself. See, this stuff takes time. It takes time to figure out what your values are, your value system, if you don't know it already. The self-awareness piece, the self-reflection, the introspection, all of that is like, you have to value, like, investing time in yourself.
Exactly.
That's work. That's a whole work right there.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you're getting into esteem.
Exactly.
Worth.
Yeah.
Worth. All of it.
Yeah.
All of those things.
You gotta dig deep.
It's interconnected.
You gotta dig deep.
Yeah, it's interconnected. And sometimes it can be messy. I, was thinking about the example of me doing a whole career pivot, right? Like went to school all these years to practice psychology. And I still am in different ways, right? Through my work. But it took me about, I would say, well over a year and a half to get to the point where I decided that like actually doing therapy was it was no longer aligning with how I wanted to enact my social responsibility value. And I still meet with my therapist less frequently now, but I was meeting with my therapist. I have notes in my office where I was writing down, like, what do I want to do? What excites me? Like, it took so long. I had to think about what are the feelings that I need to overcome to really feel like I'm making it, like, to trust myself that I'm making the right choice to not see clients anymore. How do I get the emotional energy to essentially end the therapeutic relationships with my client? Like, it was so many pieces. And I realized when I did a kind of like a backwards reflection that at the end of 2021 is when I had already been entertaining this idea, but it wasn't until I'll say February of this year that I actually acted on it.
Okay, so the time that it takes, and so I don't want to get too deep off into this, but you did say a couple things that I want you to really just give us some tips on. Is what if you don't know what your value system is? Like, what if you don't know what you value? You just on automatic or whatever. Like, what are some questions that you would ask yourself in that reflection time to help you flesh out your value system?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a resource. I'm just going to say it and hopefully people find it. If you go on Google or whatever search engine you use and type in values card sort, there will be exercises that pop up that have some interactive questions that you can start to ask yourself to figure out your values if you're just starting on ground zero. So I want to plug that. Things that I would ask myself is, what at the basic level, what would my ideal day look like? What would I be doing? Who would I be interacting with? How would I be feeling? And really start there. We call it the miracle question in the psychology world because it helps you start to unlock like these themes for yourself. So it's like, I want to be like helping people and I want to feel positively. I want to feel like I contributed. And then you kind of start to think, okay, well, what values relate to that? You might have to get out your dictionary, but trying to find those synonyms, but really starting at, if I had my ideal day, my day-to-day, or even week, what would I be doing? Who would I be interacting with? How would I feel? And I would say start there.
Ooh, that's why you're the region's top therapist, right there.
I need to get a placard that says that.
Yes.
Yeah, you do. Listen, we might, we might have to get one for you for Wealthy Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Just hold it like, woo-hoo.
I love it. Well, this has been so good. And so like when we're thinking about, as some of the things you mentioned about the value system and establishing one, I would just want to know, what would you say, Dr. Jen, is like the 5, if you can pick like 5 value building blocks for a healthy mindset, what would you say that looks like?
Yeah. Okay. 5 value building blocks. I would say the first is honest. Be honest. Whether lying to yourself gets you nowhere. Nowhere at all. And I think that is that first step of vulnerability. In order to do the growth, to take care of yourself in a genuine way, you have to be honest. You need to, and when I say honest, be honest about your strengths. Be honest about where you're not doing so well. Be honest about those flaws. Just be honest. So I would say that's my first one. The second one would be grace. Give grace. This is such a big thing that trips people up in therapy and humanhood. Everything is like giving ourselves grace. Many of us are hard on ourselves. The cliche, we're our own worst critics. We think that, I should know better. I should be doing better. And if you talk to our elders, right, I feel like they're keepers of wisdom. They'll tell you, many of them will be like, I was just kind of figuring it out. And forgiving myself and understanding myself along the way. So give yourself grace. Give other people grace because it's hard out here. We're all trying to figure it out. And when you give other people grace, you don't come in with that animosity. I've learned how to try to understand why someone showed up or didn't show up for me, or why someone felt some type of way or whatever. And that has been more restorative and healing than anything else, because then I may not agree, but I can perspective take and understand. So give grace. I would say the third one is acknowledge setbacks and use it as a lesson. Anytime I've fallen on my face, I've learned how to not trip again, maybe as often, as much, or don't trip in that same spot. There is always a lesson to learn from failures, from defeat, from challenge. And it helps us grow. It just creates this mental elasticity for ourselves. And we need that. / resilience. So that's how you build that. I would say fourth, recognize your progress. start acknowledging when you've done something well. It's okay to give yourself flowers. And even if it's a small thing, I was talking to a friend who was just like, something was going on. And I'm like, well, you're 10 steps ahead of where you were last time. And they were just like, I can't even see that. And I think it's so important when you can recognize how far you've come, because at some point that tunnel is going to get longer and longer. You're going to be so far away from the start line that you're going to be like, wow, I've made it, or I'm making it. And then last, I will say, be self-aware, but don't make it your entire identity. Healing, growing. You do not need to eat, breathe, sleep that every single moment of the day. Be human. It's okay to be aware, but also live, have fun. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have challenges, and that's okay. So those would be the 5 value building blocks for a healthy mindset that I believe in.
Oh my gosh, that was like water. Taji, what was your favorite building block of those 5?
Well, I would have to say, honestly, it would be the recognizing your progress, because I know that's something that I always try to do for myself, but I definitely find myself doing that for others, like kind of like what you said, Dr. Jen, for your friend, like reminding those around us, like, hey, actually, if you look at where you were and where you are today, like, let's celebrate that, like celebrating the wins along the journey. Yeah. So I would definitely say that.
Yeah. Mine, I love all of them equally. It's just like a breath of fresh air hearing these, but like for real, the number one, being honest. I feel like had I enacted that value like years and years ago, I probably would have dodged a lot of bullets, by just being honest about how I feel. No, I don't like this. You know what I mean? Or just saying, nah, I'm not down with that. You know what I mean? But I feel like, especially, during my younger years, like, teens and 20s, like, just going along with other people's value systems,
right,
you know what I mean? Right. And not being honest and saying, you know what? I'm not with all this. I feel like not enacting that value really, I paid for that, right? But also, it got me to the point now where I really do value being honest. You know what I mean? Because listen, I'm older now, so I don't got that much time to be wasting if I don't like something.
Right. Listen, don't have the time or the patience, okay?
or the patience. These are really good. Oh,
they're
wow.
So good. And for those of you who are just not watching, like, we're talking about values, and Dr. Jen just went over a lot of great information, including these 5 value building blocks. And so, Dr. Jen, as you were going through these, what are practical ways of us establishing and then implementing these values in our everyday lives?
Yeah, I always say, write it down. I know I'm tactile, so I'm biased. I write everything down, but it helps me. I would just say, write it or speak it if you like to vlog it, but you need to, I think, have it somewhere that you can reference it. If your memory is just sharp A1, cool, do that too. And I would say, so that's part 1, make it available, readily available for you to revisit. And then I would say, have fun with figuring out how you enact your values, and be flexible, because it changes. I keep giving that same, example of social responsibility. Like, this is just me being flexible. I didn't, make a 10-point PowerPoint plan of how this would work. I just was like, let's dabble. So don't be afraid to experiment with different things to enact your values, because why not? This can be, I always tell people, figuring out ourselves doesn't have to be this painful, horrible process. It can be fun. I always think values are like the funnest thing I ever did with clients, because we get to be creative. That's actually one of my values. I am a creative thinker. So I'm like, boom. So I would say, make it available, be flexible, have fun with it. And, review. Every so often, check in with yourself and review. How is it going? What needs to shift, or what's working well, and then go from there.
Wow. Dr. Jen, listen, thank you so much for being our resident therapist on Wealthy Wednesday this season. Wow, I can't even really express how helpful like that this has been like for me personally. You know, each time we get on Wealthy Wednesday this season, I'm learning new things, and it's helpful things. Like it's really like rewiring my brain to think about things differently. And so I really appreciate that, and we're so glad we get to have you back for our final episode next time to really help us increase our knowledge and skill set around these topics that literally can have us carrying extra weight in our everyday lives. We don't have to do that. We have tools that we can get that can really help us, stay light on our feet. Okay, so we really appreciate you, Dr. Jen, and we will see you next Wealthy Wednesday.
Yes. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Dr. Jen just comes in and like drops the jewels, and then she
drops the mic every time. And this time we were able to get them on the screen. So hopefully y'all caught those nuggets on the screen because we were able to put those in there.
Yes, good. Yeah. And I really hope everyone is really like absorbing this information. Like I know it's been a lot. Like we've gone through a lot of heavy stuff this series. I mean, to the point where like us ourselves, we have to go back and listen and pick it out and everything. And it's just a day by day thing, but I just want to really encourage everybody to get what you need. And Dr. Jen is, a definite wealth of information, and I'm so grateful for her.
Absolutely.
So, we got some announcements, Taji.
Yes.
Just a couple. Summer's winding down. We're moving into fall. But I do want to remind everyone that Queen Care, what we've been working on with our first location in Columbia City, which has been closed since the pandemic, we are reimagining that space and opening it into a spa fall of this year. Yay. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Like I know I'm a spa junkie, and so I'm so excited to have this space. We are looking for estheticians and masseuses to come and get down with us. So if you are a licensed masseuse or a licensed esthetician, I would love to speak with you and see what we can get going in that area. Come join our team. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone who came out to our summer series at Queen Care. We had a lot of fun with karaoke and self-care and sip and fitness classes and art classes. It was really nice. So thank y'all for, kicking it with us this summer. We're going to bring our Queen Care series back next summer, of course, but we're moving into the fall and we're moving into, hot chocolate and, Netflix and spas. Okay. So that's all the announcements I have on the Queen Care side. What you got for Life Enrichment Group?
Absolutely. Super excited for the spa. Definitely pencil me in. But we are hiring at Life Enrichment Group as well. And so right now we are looking for those who are interested in working with young ladies with our Young Queens program of Seattle and King County. We're looking for facilitators for that program. So if you know anyone or if you are interested in being a facilitator, definitely please, you can leave a comment below or you can email, I'll put it right here, tellis@lifeenrichmentgroup.org, and you can email me your resume. Also, we are looking to hire for our mentoring program, a mentor coordinator, volunteer coordinator. So also if you're interested in and you do well with recruiting, mentors and volunteers, we're looking for someone to do that as well. And then last but not least, we will be opening up registration for our 2024 Historically Black College University tours for next year. So as if you all don't know, every year for the last 12 years, we have been going on Black College tours. And so 2024 is no different. So stay tuned for all the information that will be dropping at September near you.
I love it. Oh my gosh. It's time for the next set of college tours. Oh my goodness. Time really is flying. Time is flying. Well, I'm going to close us out with final words today. Our next and last Wealthy Wednesday session of this particular season is going to focus on business growth and sustainability. And I want all of you aspiring entrepreneurs, or, you're an entrepreneur now, I want y'all to tune into that, because we really are going to be talking about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that we really don't talk about a lot, and that's growing pains, okay? Because when we're talking about business growth and sustainability, don't think that it's all glamorous, because it's not. And I really want you all to hear from different business owners who have grown their business and talk about some of those not so glamorous things, because I think that's really important in helping us stay in business, is knowing what you're getting into and being okay when life starts lifing. And it really ties back to all these mental health pieces that we've been talking about, the values in place. Jen said it earlier, don't make it mean the end of the world. What are you making things mean? All of these pieces are really tying into what we can do to really build, and sustain our businesses. So we're going to end off on that note. And I just want to let y'all know, listen, life is lifing out here for a lot of us.
Woo!
This opportunity to reset. Let's take this opportunity to go from, surviving to thriving. That's a whole spectrum right there. Right? There's a lot of in-betweens, and we can do this. We got this, as long as we, continue to bring ourselves together in networks like this, and really supporting each other through getting the mental health tools that we need to be our best selves, we can make it through. And that's not just for business owners. That's just for in life, period. Absolutely. So yes, let's take the steps that we need to take to go from surviving to thriving. Let's use some of these mental health tools that we've been talking about all season long, implement into your life when life gets to life, and it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. So yeah, y'all. With that, we love you so very much. Thank y'all for tuning in to Wealthy Wednesday, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time. Bye.